If 2025 didn't go exactly the way that you had planned, if there were a lot of twists and turns, this video is exactly for you. I see a lot of people on social media nowadays talking about how 2025 was a really bad year, was the worst year of their lives. I think it's ironic because I actually see that kind of video every single year. At the end of 2024, 2023, 22, there's been always a lot of people I see on social media who say that how that year wasn't the best and how they have to get it together so they can be able to start off the next year on a strong note, and that they won't be able to repeat any mistakes or any incidents that happened in the past year as well. I believe there are always two sides of the story. Some people have a bad year, some people have a good year. I also have seen people who have said that 2025 was also a great year in their lives. So on the basis of this, when you talk about something is bad or is good, and when you're comparing these two things, and when you're reflecting on your journey, and especially when you reflect upon a period of time, there's always going to be a negative side, and there's always going to be a positive side. The purpose of me making this video today is because it's really important for you to celebrate anything that you have achieved in 2025, no matter how small the win was, no matter how insignificant it was, because the one thing that you should always applaud yourself is for growth and for change, and everything that you went through, every single lesson that you learned, no matter how big or how small. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Grace. To those of you who are coming across my videos, this channel is for me to document my self-development journey, but then also to share any tips or advice or stories or reflections that I have along my journey that I learned that I believe would be beneficial to anyone out there who is also navigating their 20s, just learning more about life in general, and just navigating and developing into bigger and better things. Yeah. All right. So, listen up. It's okay if 2025 felt really messy, really crazy. It's okay if you haven't achieved all the goals that you have written down in January or December of last year. One thing you need to know for sure is that things will never go as planned. You can say, or you can feel that rush of energy or motivation or even discipline to say like, hey, this year I will definitely do this. I will get my dream body. I will land that 6-figure job. I will start and grow my business. I will even graduate school, finish school. I will get a boyfriend, a girlfriend. You can say all these things, and you can even make those actions towards that goal. But then in some cases, actually even a lot of cases, that goal probably won't be achieved. Because when something's not meant for you, or at this stage in your life, when you still need to learn something, when you still need to go through something, whatever you set your mind to, it doesn't guarantee that it will always come to you at the time that you want it. It may come to you eventually. The happy things, the success, the relationships that you want, trust that they will come to you. But maybe in January you were like, okay, this year I have to find my soulmate. Maybe you still didn't find your soulmate yet, but that's okay. And I think the hardest thing for people to accept at the end of the year is any sort of like regret or any sort of mistakes that they made or things that they could have done better. They think about that, which is completely valid to be feeling those feelings, because that, of course, is a part of reflection and learning. But apart from all the negative things that you can probably think of why this past year wasn't your best year, why don't you challenge yourself to think about the positive things? One thing that I really like seeing on my like social media pages nowadays is TikToks or reels of people like having that cake, and they putting like those sticks with like a post-it note or something on the cake to like celebrate a small win. Like I see like a group of friends, they have a cake, and then they're just like putting their small wins on the cake. And I believe that's something that's so powerful actually, because even when you feel like you go through the worst year of your life, but you think about all those things, you can always think of something positive. When you set your mind to it and you look on the positive side of things, that helps you grow better. That inspires you to be like, even though I wasn't perfect, even though I didn't achieve this ABC thing this year, but I still did this. And this brings more positivity. This brings more peace, more light, more relief into your mind, which is so important for your growth and for your self-development. Some examples of small wins: getting out of bed, those days, even when you didn't want to, even when you didn't want to go to class, even when you didn't want to go to work, but you still pushed yourself and you got out of bed. That is something that you should be proud of, because it is hard. It takes a lot of willpower to do that, even though it's something so basic. But in those days where you feel like everything, you just don't have any energy, you have no motivation, but you still decide to just pull yourself together and get up, that's something that you should be proud of. If you went through any sort of traumatic events, or if you went through any sort of heartbreak, if you went through that, but you're still here, you're still standing, you're still living and breathing, be proud of yourself. Going through these phases is hard. Ending relationships, situationships, going through accidents, going through people leaving you, like cutting off toxic relationships, or going through any sort of physical or emotional pain or trauma, and still being able to continue and to heal and to work on yourself and to get to this stage in your life and to get to this day and still be standing and breathing, it's something that you should be very proud of yourself for. Another thing is looking on all the relationships that you have maintained. Part of changing and evolving and just going through life is that each person's situation is different, but any sort of relationships that, like people that you still keep in touch, or any new relationships that have been formed and built upon this year, be proud of those. Be proud of that friendship that you've had since childhood. Be proud of that friendship that you've had since college. Be proud of that friendship that you had since, let's say, even like last month, let's say. Any sort of friendships or relationships that you have built and maintained, you should be proud of. You don't necessarily need to focus on those relationships or friendships that you've lost, because that was a separate chapter. I can bet that anyone that has gone through any sort of friendship breakup or relationship breakup, you always will, it's very painful to go through, but you always learn something from it. Because it's something that's painful. You don't want to feel that pain again. You don't want to go through that same situation again. That toxicity, that like push and pull, that even like narcissism or just like unhealthy relationships. You don't want to go through those again. So when you go through those, I think it's going through those stages of life or those kind of relationships that people are more inclined to work on themselves or to get over it or to just improve themselves in general, elevate themselves. If you started a new job, or you're still in the same job, but you're surviving it. Maybe you're growing, or maybe you're still there, maybe you want to get out of it, but being proud of where you are in your career is so different. Even if, let's say, your goal is that you want to make 6 figures, even if you're not at the stage yet, you didn't get the raise, you didn't get that promotion, or you didn't get that that like new job that you wanted, new career, you should still be proud of yourself for being where you are. Progress is progress. All of the things that you're doing every single day, they are compounding into something greater for you to reap back in the future. The next one I can think of is something that is really important, really applicable to me, because I know that since my experience before in doing business and entrepreneurship, I know that most of the time, or in actually on all scenarios, your mindset is more important than your skill set. It's not the level of skill that will make you successful, it's the mindset that you have while you use and build upon and develop those skills. So just one small mindset change this year, that is something that you should be very proud of, because mindset is also more difficult to change, I'd say. Most people, we are accustomed to thinking negatively. I think the human brain, it's easier to think about all the negative things, all the things that we like can't control, and like blame other people, and just like, just it takes effort to be positive. So if you were just a little bit more positive this year, or you did a few more things, like you gave, instead of giving yourself negative self-talk, you started talking to yourself positively, then that should be something that you're proud of. If you loved yourself a little bit more this year, if you improved on your self-worth, on your self-love, be proud of yourself for that. And the last thing that I'm going to mention for now is trying again even after failing. Failure is hard to go through. Failing a class, failing a test, failing a goal, failing a milestone, failing a new project. It is all very, very tough to go through, but you're still here. Be proud of yourself. Every single failure brings new lessons and new levels and new ideas, new inspirations, new motivations. Even if you haven't like gone through the stages yet, like I'm ready to start something new, but you failed and you learned something that is so valuable. Failures teach you a lot of valuable lessons. There's no such thing as you keep on succeeding and succeeding and succeeding, but the best ways to grow and to learn is by failing more and doing more. What I recommend everyone do, and this is something that I have done and will continue to do, is that anything that happens, basically like as much as you can. I try to do this on a weekly basis. I've recently tried to make it more like a daily basis. It's just to sit and reflect on your day, on your week. Think about what was positive, what was not so positive, and reward yourself for all the positive things that happened or all the positive outlooks that you have, and even reward yourself for sitting there and like pushing yourself to reflect and to think about this. When you really lay it down like this, it makes it easier for you to set a good foundation for the start of 2026. One of the first things that you should always try improving or changing is your routine, your habits. I recommend reading the book called Atomic Habits. That book has helped me a lot in terms of like developing healthier routines, and I think that it's a very famous book. I believe it's probably like New York Times best-selling book as well. Using those resources, like reading those insights, because in a book, like you can be able to learn so much about one single topic from an author's like entire lifetime and research that they've conducted. But then, in that book, it's not a drag at all. It's actually a very, very insightful book. Atomic Habits, or even there's this one book that I really like called The Compound Effect. It talks about how the small actions that you're doing every single day, even though it's just like making yourself like 1% better every single day, but it compounds a lot in the future. That these small things that you do, they're laying and laying and laying upon each other when it comes to a point where they compound and you just everything starts coming together. Start by setting your routines. Start by writing things down and or just sitting down or writing things down and thinking about what kind of routines do I have? What is the version of myself that I want to be emotionally and aesthetically? And envision the type of person that I want to be and think about what would the future me do? And knowing that building that momentum all comes from these small wins. Another thing that you probably shouldn't do is comparing yourself to others. Comparison is truly the thief of joy. The more you compare yourself to others, even if it's just like your friends, even if it's just like a random person on social media, you never know the full picture of what someone is going on in their mind or in their life. So there's no use of comparing yourself to anyone. Focus on yourself. The only person that you should be comparing yourself to is the older version of yourself. Look upon the older version of yourself. Compare yourself to them. In a healthy way, of course. And see, look how much I've grown. Look, how would my teenage self think of myself? How would the younger version of myself think about myself? Even if I'm not the version of that my younger self exactly imagined for myself to be at this age, but look how much I've grown. Look at how much more mature I've become. I think another beneficial thing is choosing one like area of like a theme for 2026. For example, I want more discipline. I want more routine. I just want to be more positive. I just want to be more fit. I just want elevation, expansion. Think about that one core theme you want your 2026 movie to look like. And think about it, remember it, write it down, hang it in your room, do whatever you need to do, but just think about it. And to wrap up the video, I also felt like it would be beneficial for me to share a little bit about my 2025 experiences, because for me to make this video, I also had to do a lot of thinking of my past year, my small wins throughout the past year. So last year in December, I had moved back home from college, and then I had faced around 3 months of unemployment, like finding jobs, sending resumes, just staying at home. And it was a pretty rough 3 months. Like when you have like nothing to do, when you wake up, you don't have a schedule or anything, and your only focus is to find jobs. Anyone that has gone through phases of unemployment, you can probably understand with me. It can be very like mentally draining to go through. I ended up starting a new job, finding a job nearby my home, working in banking in March, at the end of March. And then that was a game changer for me. At that time in my life, I remember a lot of doors open for me with a new job, a new environment, new people to meet, and just a new place in general. It opened up a lot of things, a lot of doors into my life. One of the things I'm most thankful for of that opportunity is meeting my current boyfriend as well. He came in my life in a moment where I didn't expect for him to come into my life, and it's just been definitely a journey with him so far, but I appreciate him and I love him so much, and it's the first long-term healthy relationship that I've been in. So I'm really, really grateful for that. I think one of the biggest things I'm grateful for is for being in a job is meeting my boyfriend, because we actually met through work. But besides that, is that being in that new job too, it allowed me to grow upon so many skills and have allowed me to like elevate myself to be more confident. Another thing that unexpectedly happened this year is in the middle of this year, around the summertime, I decided that the business that I have been a part of and running for the past 2.5 years, I decided to not be a part of that anymore. It was a very big decision for me to make. I started this in college. A lot of my friends, a lot of my closest confidants, I met them through business, through mentorship programs, and through a lot of different experiences, through travel and everything. And it was really hard for me to kind of give up on that opportunity, give up on that vehicle. But ultimately, I decided that it just didn't align with what I wanted in the future anymore, and also the environment that I was in. I just believed that it didn't serve me any longer. So that was a very hard decision for me to make, but I think that kind of choosing to let go at certain times, not like quitting or giving up necessarily, but just choosing to let go of people and things and environments that no longer serve you, that is one of the best decisions that you can make for yourself. Starting over. One thing I see a lot on social media nowadays is also the concept of starting over. It's okay to start over. Some people start over at 18, some people start over at 25, at 30, even 40, 50. It's never bad to start over. Those were the main things I'd say that I like to share that happened to me this year. But I've learned so much, I've grown so much, even though there wasn't that big, like, oh, I achieved a big thing. I didn't get rich this year, I didn't get super successful this year, but I grew. I became an elevated version of myself. I became a higher value woman, woman that I have always aspired to be. And I've continued becoming that person, and I have even bigger and better goals for 2026. But yeah, again, if you're watching this video, thank you so much if you came to the end with me. If there was anything that you resonated with, anything that you feel like you would like to share from reflecting on your journey in 2025, please feel free to leave any comments. And yeah, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Congrats on nearing to the end of 2025. Hang in there, there's only around 2.5 more weeks left, but we'll see you in 2026.